Hello all, welcome back to the channel. My name's Owen and this channel is about my story of recovery from drug and gambling addictions. It's about the things that have helped me and it's about things that I believe can help you. So this video is a bit more background on my life and the things that led to my drug and gambling addictions. So just before my parents divorced, when I was about 13 years old, I was moved to schools, and I was moved to schools in year 8 as we were moving house. In the United Kingdom, year 8 is the second year of secondary school. So I grew up with all my friends in primary school. I'd made what I thought were friends for life, and then we'd moved into secondary school, we'd settled in, all happy, and then we were moved year 8. Now, this was a hard thing to deal with at that age because I'd moved to a school where every single person knew each other sort of, and I didn't know a single person. So of course, I did everything that I could to fit in, and I latched onto whoever and whatever I could. So I remember one of my first friendships there was a guy, and he used to, it sounds silly, but he used to punch me a lot. He used to punch me in the arm, he used to punch me in the chest, things like that, and he punched me really hard and it hurt. And he'd call me names, he'd make comments about my appearance, my weight, and back then they were things that I was really self-conscious about, so that really took its toll on me mentally. But of course, I didn't know anyone else. I was so desperate for a friend and to fit in that was okay at the time, and that was what friendship consisted of for me. So then after a while, of course, I got fed up of him and I started latching onto different people and groups, and I'd try and fit in however I could. So I'd start buying the same clothes as people who I thought were cool. I'd start having parties at my parents' house, even though that wasn't granted. I get into a lot of trouble for those, but that was fine for me because people thought I were cool and people knew them as Owen's parties and Owen's house. But that really wrecked my relationship with my parents for a long time, and it wrecked my mother's home on a few occasions, and that was a terrible thing of me to do. But of course, I was so desperate to fit in and be liked that I was willing to sacrifice my relationship with my parents just for that. So of course then the drug addiction started from the point of fitting in, really, because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to do what all the cool kids were doing and what all the people were doing, and I wanted to be liked, so I wanted to stand out and take more drugs than these people and find ways to get higher and higher. So that was the main cause of my drug addiction starting, I'd say. Just wanted to fit in, wanted to stand out, be cool and be liked by people. And then if you watched my first video, you'll know that my parents divorced when I was 13, and I went from being spoiled and having everything to all those privileges taken away from me. And that's kind of how the gambling started, because I was just chasing money. I wanted to make more money easily, and that's how the gambling started. So with the drugs trying to fit in, obviously, I started smoking weed about 17 years old, and yeah, it was fitting in at first, and then it was trying to stand out and look cool, so it was always thinking of new ways to get higher. Instead of joints, we'd start smoking bongs. We'd make all these like mad devices out of big 2-litre plastic bottles. We'd start putting like 7 grams in joints. We'd start buying ounces. We'd start buying bigger amounts. It was just always about trying to chase that first high, you know, because there's never a high as good as the first one. And then moving on to the Ecstasy and the MDMA. Again, that was never about just taking one a night to enjoy yourself. It was going out, it was having 6, 7 pills in a night. That's in the space of a few hours, on the top of ketamine, cocaine, drink, anything you can think of. And then it was going to festivals. It was trying to have 10, 12 pills in a day, no food, no water, loads more drugs. And I could have potentially died at that point, but for me, it was about standing out. It was about being funny, whereas really that's the furthest thing from funny I can think of right now. And yeah, it was absolutely wrecking my health, and I could have potentially died at that point. But to me, I just wanted the story to tell after. I wanted to say, yep, I had 10 pills yesterday, I had 12 pills at this festival. And yeah, all along having no idea how bad that actually was for me. So then from taking all these drugs, obviously, I had a lot of people around me, I had a big social circle, and I became known as that guy who was just like so messed up all the time. And I developed this whole personality around being messed up. People found me funny because I took so many drugs. Anytime anyone was offering drugs out, it'd be like, "Oh, do you want this?" I'd be like, "Yeah, of course I do." I'd take it on weeknights, sat in the house at parties, at festivals, take anything I could get my hands on from people. And yeah, people would laugh at me because I was so out of my face, I couldn't speak, I couldn't walk, or I was just doing something stupid and making myself look like a right idiot, which is fine. You should let yourself go and make yourself look like an idiot, but not if it's on drugs and if people are laughing at you. But yeah, at the time it was great. I got this ego boost. I was getting exactly what I wanted because I stood out and I was funny. But in the reality of things, people were laughing at me, not with me. And those weren't proper friendships, and 90%, probably 100% of those people I don't even speak to now. So at this point, the drug taking was so habitual, and it got so heavy and so hard, and it was just so normal that it wasn't just taking it to stand out with the crowd anymore and to make people laugh. Then it started being when I was on my own, sat in the house, and taking drugs was something I just did to enjoy myself and escape whatever emotions that should have been going on at the time. So I started smoking ridiculous amounts of weed. I kind of lost my whole personality smoking weed, and that story's coming in the next video. That was a life-changing and, yeah, very, very eye-opening and scary experience. And then I'd be sniffing ketamine on top of that, so I'd be sat in the house with my mates, and again, it was just about getting as high as we could. It was pouring full grams out into lines, sniffing it. We'd all be out of our minds, monged out. You couldn't even talk, you couldn't think, you couldn't stand up, you couldn't see. It was about who could sniff the biggest lines, it was about who could sniff the most, who had the best cat. And then it was taking cocaine in the house and pills in the house, and it was just, this was past the point of fitting in. This was addiction, and this was just doing anything that I could to get my hands on these drugs and to just feel somewhat detached from myself and so far away from what I actually should have been feeling. Anyhow, once I'd kind of come down from this fantasy planet and I lost this whole personality and there wasn't this funny guy anymore, I'd become so reserved and awkward, and I just wanted to sit in the house on my own. I didn't want to see anyone. I could barely speak to my own family. I couldn't really speak to my own friends. So I started spending a lot of time on my own, and that's kind of when I had to rebuild my whole personality. As I said, I'm going to do another video on that, as it's definitely a story that deserves to be on its own. Thank you so much for watching. It's been Owen. That was a little bit more of a background to my drug history and my drug taking. Of course, many more stories to come. If this content appeals to you and you want to improve your life, you don't have to be a drug addict or a gambling addict to want to improve your life. I'm neither of those now, but there are still so many things that I'm actively looking into every day to improve my life for the better. So yeah, again, it's been Owen. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll definitely see you in the next video.